Welcome to Notes from the North with Kyle and Sam.
Welcome back to Notes from the North. Kyle and Sam here, and the Vikings have now pulled off 5 straight wins. Big win over the Saints. Maybe I'll start with this, Kyle. I'm curious for you. Again, you look at the final scoreboard and you see that it's a one-possession game.
Yep.
But it definitely feels like it's one of those games that the scoreboard doesn't really tell the full story of what happened. Because, again, the Saints obviously had a chance to bring this game back. They did have chances in a sense to tie the game, but felt like the Vikings certainly dominated most of the game from my perspective. And I'm curious for you, like, because the second half definitely felt like some things slipped.
That's the thing. So kicking back actually a week, go back to Atlanta, right? Another NFC South opponent. And by the way, it's very good that the Vikings have beat both the Falcons and the Saints, insofar as quite plausibly these could be two teams who you're battling with for the wildcard spot. And so the fact that you not only beat them, you do that +1 win, they do a -1 in the loss. And then if there's a tiebreaker at the end, it tilts towards the Vikings because you get that head-to-head. So that's kind of your caveat there. Not caveat, but extra bit of info. That's a positive thing. The other thing there, so go back to the Atlanta game. I thought the Vikings had basically one good half and one bad half. And by that, you could even not exaggerate, but even kind of define it more starkly than that. And so you had one brilliant half and one really lousy half, right? And thankfully for the Vikings' sake, that was enough to come out with the win against the Falcons. Fast forward a week, go to a different, opponent from that same division, the Saints, and you kind of have the same thing. I mean, the Vikings had 3 possessions in the second quarter, and they scored 3 touchdowns. TJ Hawkinson, of course, was just phenomenal. Arguably his best game since coming over to the Vikings. And you kind of tip the cap, you know what I mean, to Kevin O'Connell. You can see it's a lot of man coverage from the Saints. And then you can see a lot of those explosives in the second quarter, coming on these crossing routes, right? It's just, it's much harder when you start getting east-west versus north-south, right? It becomes a lot more challenging to chase a dude across the field, right? And so you kind of tip the cap. You kind of have O'Connell recognize what's happening, make that bit of an adjustment. And then, of course, the Hawkinsons of the world, the Jordan Addisons of the world, and of course, Josh Dobbs, phenomenal stuff. And you basically go into the half feeling really, really good about yourself. And you've got a full 3-touchdown lead. Now, in the end, as you're saying, it's a 1-score game. You basically need every bit of that. It was a little disappointing in the second half. If Derek Carr doesn't get hurt, I don't think this game is nearly as close. The Florida's defense, I think, more or less had Carr figured out, and we're really making it difficult for them to do much of anything. Jameis Winston certainly has his faults, but he also has his strengths. And we were just talking about before the pod, like, the dude will give his guys a shot, right? And you even think his 2 touchdown passes, Sam, both of them came over top of Byron Murphy. And in kind of like a literal sense, you've got, good sized receivers. Byron Murphy is right there, right on their hip. And you can even see him kind of try to play through their hands. So if you're coaching a defensive back, right, if you can get your head around in time and get position on the ball, go up and make a play on the ball yourself. It belongs to you just as much as it belongs to the receiver. And it's in the air, like that's anybody's ball kind of thing, right? But if the receiver has, gets around and you kind of get your head around, they teach you play your hands through the balls. Like, so you shoot your arm, try it, knock it out of their hands, force it incompletion. And you can see in both instances, Byron Murphy's in a good enough position, tries to shoot his hands and take the ball out of the receiver's hands. But in both instances, the Saints player won. You know what I mean? Good sized dudes. I don't know, maybe that better position, better compete, whatever the factors were, they came down with those touchdowns. The flip side of that is that Jameis Winston gives his dudes a shot, and Murphy ends up getting an interception on one of them. Mekhi Blackman, the rookie, been doing really excellent stuff, gets an interception on the other one. So Jameis Winston, I was going to say he's like the Lord, but I don't want to be blasphemous. It just seems that he gives and takes away. Insofar as he gives and takes away, there's that parallel with the Lord. And so, all that to say, I don't think it was a complete game. The Vikings haven't had a complete game yet with Dobbs, which isn't, I mean, he's been here for less than 2 games. But you've kind of had really stark contrast between each half in these 2 games. And so the task, in my mind at least, for the Vikings, for the coaching staff, for Dobbs himself, of course, for the offensive line, for everyone involved, is how do you allow this dude still be dangerous? You know what I mean? Even if like second quarter, 3 touchdowns, 3 possessions, like that's obviously unsustainable. Nobody can keep up that pace. But how do you still become dangerous? Because the Vikings were really, in a lot of ways, like 1 more point away from like almost comfortably winning the game, because they had an 8-point lead. You push it to even 9. Now I know you can't score 1 point, but you push it to even 9, and all of a sudden it's a 2-possession game, and that totally changes the water of the beans, right? So how do the Vikings get there? They tried that with the 54-yard field goal. Greg Joseph kind of pushed it, and then they just kind of didn't have much else. There's a lot of punting the football, right? So I don't know what you kind of make in that jumbled mess of thoughts, Sam, but I don't think it was like a wire-to-wire complete game, even though they kind of mostly had that lead wire-to-wire mostly, right?
Yeah. I think, again, it's easy to sit here, and rarely does a team put together a complete game. And again, you just look at score effects and that. And so, but I do think, again, it felt like the Vikings were really rolling, and you do hope that, again, you're, as you said, you're not going to put up a touchdown every game or every drive, but you're going to at least create something and be able to take time off the clock, do whatever that looks like. Really, you look at the possession numbers, pretty even split in the second half, and so it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I would say that I don't feel too critical. Again, I know that the second half was not great, and I know I saw some comments that Kevin O'Connell took some ownership for the second half in terms of some of the play calling, and that's fair. But again, you mentioned the Jameis Winston experience. Like, it is something. Like, it's just it's a roller coaster, and it's entertaining to watch. I think it would be hard to have him quarterback your team, but he made some fantastic plays, and he made some ill-advised
ill-advised
would be
probably a fair. There were some ill-advised throws, but you also kind of credit Murphy for hanging in there. Like, having someone catch 2 touchdowns over you is extremely discouraging. Like, corner is a position that you have to be remarkably resilient mentally, almost like a closer in baseball. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to be so, because your errors are so obvious, and getting beat is so obvious. And so credit to Murphy hanging in there. And then, of course, the young fella, hanging with, I'm talking Blackman, like hanging with Olave, who's an excellent wide receiver. And so good stuff there, man. Really, really good stuff. Because at that point, Caleb Evans had left the game. And so you're talking about, the rookie Mekhi Blackman. And then on opposite him, you have Andrew Booth, the sophomore. And then largely inside, you've got Byron Murphy, right? So, like, just really excellent job from the Flores defense. They've come a long way. And I know I was critical of them last week, and I'm not saying they're perfect and so on and so forth, but they've come a long way, man. It's kind of astonishing to think the turnover from last year to those opening 3 games to where they are right now. Just unbelievable, the difference. I don't know if they've got it entirely figured out, but man, I do know they make it hard on you. And you kind of just you kind of have that in the back of your mind. What if Marcus Davenport comes back healthy and stays healthy? You know, what's the ceiling for this defense? Um, I don't know, right? Like, could this plausibly be a top 15, flirting with maybe top 10, 12 defense? Maybe, right? Maybe.
which is,
You know, they're a bit opportunistic. They create pressure. They create some turnovers. I don't know. What do you think? Were you impressed with them yesterday?
I continue to be, and I think one of the things that it feels like, again, not that it's always linear in this way, but it does feel like they just continue to get better and better. And I think,
Yeah, man.
you know, especially when you're blitzing at the rate that they do, like there are some weaknesses, and some good teams could expose them
Yeah.
in different ways. But uh, I don't know. It's a lot of fun. It's encouraging. And I like, again, you mentioned Davenport, but I know he's a very good player, but DJ Wanham just feels like he is
Yeah,
taking this
been good.
opportunity and
He's been
running with
really
it.
good.
And
Yeah.
I like,
Yeah.
every time I see a 90 something in the back,
Yeah.
going, I'm like, again, I know they're playing on different sides, but I'm like, was that Hunter or Wanham? And like,
Yeah.
it's like he continually is disruptive.
Yeah.
I know yesterday, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, got his 5th sack of the season,
Number
like
5.
making things happen.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, guys are stepping up, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun to watch.
You look at Wanham's build, he's got basically a perfect build. Like, he's long, right? He's long, he's pretty thick. He doesn't have the burst that Hunter has, because I mean, man, guys at that size, not many move like Daniel Hunter. So DJ Wanham, I don't think, has the athleticism as Hunter. But man, his build is excellent. Like, he's built like you want an NFL edge rusher. He looks like one. Um, and man, like, he was kind of a little bit sluggish, I thought, to start the year. But again, his kind of turnaround and him kind of coming on coincides with the defense. I'm not saying that he is solely responsible, because there's a variety of factors, obviously, but he is one of the critical factors in that. You know what I mean? Like, Batman needs a Robin, right? Daniel Hunter being Batman, of course. So he's not a bad Robin. You know what I mean? The hope is for Marcus Davenport. And then at that point, if you get DJ Wanham as your number 30, maybe he's Alfred. I don't know. Maybe we've exhausted the Batman metaphor. But like, Davenport does a pretty good job of kicking inside, right? And so you have Wanham on one edge, Hunter on another edge, and then Davenport working either the center of the guard or some combination of that. That is a combination that's going to inspire a little bit of fear, and rightly so, right? Like, it's very difficult to match up with those three, especially with this kind of perpetual threat from the defensive coordinator, who can basically send anyone at any time. In essence, every single player in that defense can and will blitz. Some do more than others, of course, right? Harrison Smith stands out, Jordan Hicks stands out, Josh Patella stands out, but everyone can and will blitz. And so, oh, man, they might have something, right? They might, and in the end of the day, like, the Vikings offense, so they have that amazing second quarter, right? They go up to the big lead. They come out in the second half, they score that extra 3 points, and now you make it a full robust 3 possessions. And that's now 24 points. And if you want to even tie this game, you got to get 3 touchdowns and 3 two-point conversions. They ended up only getting 2 in the end, and that's why they lost. But the game ended on a pair of interceptions, right? And even within, Winston kind of creating some offense, the Vikings defense still got off the field for some punts. So, yeah, the Force defense, man. Like, it's I don't know if they got to give him a raise or what kind of perks he can get in Minnesota, but oh man, you kind of hope that he sticks around. You think that last year, Wes Phillips was getting a little bit of interest in being an offensive coordinator. I think it was with the Chargers potentially. I'll have to kind of look that up. But Wes Phillips turned it down, and basically saying that he had unfinished business in Minnesota. Now, I recognize it's in one sense, it feels like a lateral move because it's one OC job to another OC job, but he doesn't call the plays, So it was kind of a mini promotion, and he ended up saying no to it. And so you kind of wonder, is there any chance at all that Flores, who is almost certainly anybody who's paying attention can see that this dude deserves to be a head coach, right? Even just in press conferences, he's phenomenal, right? Like he's great in press conferences. His game plans are great. He's done an amazing job of maximizing his talent. I mean, you look at that defensive line. Jonathan Bullard, who's a journeyman, Kairos Tonga, who is an undrafted free agent or maybe a late round guy. Can you look that up, Sam? Kairos Tonga for the Vikings. But anyways, he came over, I believe, from the Bears. Harrison Phillips is kind of your one guy who you come into the year saying, yeah, he's an above average. He's not Aaron Donald, right, or DeForest Buckner, but he's a good defensive lineman. Jaquelin Roy, who's a 5th round rookie. I mean, you're really kind of lacking that kind of high end game breaker talent who's kind of going to get that, penetration, demand those, double teams. Man, that D line is playing phenomenally well. And then I came into the year thinking that D line was basically going to need to be overhauled and that they were going to get bullied. And Jonathan Bullard is playing excellently. Harrison Phillips looks like he is having a ton of fun out there. I don't know if there's a D lineman having more fun in the NFL right now than Harrison Phillips. That dude enjoys playing football in this system. And so you kind of just wonder, like, is there any way Flores can stay? You know what I mean? Right? Like, and what he means to the Vikings and what he's doing with some of these players.
Yeah. No, I think, again, as fans, it's interesting when you live in a salary cap world, you think about how different guys and different players fit into the salary cap. But with coaches, it doesn't matter. And so you're like, you know what? Like, it's not my money. Like,
give him a raise.
$10 million, like whatever it takes to keep him. And again, it's a bit bittersweet, right? When like when a guy's performing so well as a coach that you're worried about losing him. Like, again, you talk about bad problems to have, good problems to have. It's a good problem to have, although it certainly is it'd be difficult to leave. But you just wonder about the legacy that a guy leaves behind with that. And like you know, you've seen a little bit of the blueprint of what can make this team work. And I think the hope would be at this point now, I think you're hoping that there's something here, and like you don't need to, you could tinker a little bit, but like there's a lot of good things here. Tonga, just to touch on that, he's 7th round pick,
7th round,
250th overall by Chicago in 2021. So again, like you said, like there's some piecing together, and maybe I'll wrap us up with this as a bit of a question. You mentioned DJ Wanham realizing that, you know what, it's not solely on him as part of what's making this defense click, but he's certainly a piece of it. And I'm curious, if we look at the other side with the offense, like not that you could maybe break it down into percentage, because it's maybe not fair to do. It's hard to know, but I'll ask it like this. You look at the offense, you look at, you talk about Josh Dobbs, you talk about the receiving core yesterday, which was very much Addison and Hawkinson.
Exactly.
That was very much it.
Hawkinson especially, but
that you've got the offensive line, which just again seems to be taking a step, and you've got Kevin O'Connell. Which of those 4 are you most impressed with?
I mean, it's obviously Dobbs, but that kind of seems like a lame answer because it's so obvious. Look at the NFL's Twitter right now, and I believe it says, "In Dobbs we trust," and it has a picture of Josh Dobbs. I mean, this dude is the QB. Technically speaking, he's the QB4 in Minnesota. He was a mid-round pick by the Steelers, I think in 2017, Sam, or something like that. He's been around the NFL, right? He has basically just kind of captured the imagination of the NFL, and rightfully so. Look at his touchdown run and how he navigated that pocket. And then as he kind of scrambles out to his left, he does that point, you know what I mean? And then it does kind of like a little bit of movement, kind of cause that defender to stop his feet for a second and then accelerate beyond him. Phenomenal stuff. Friggin' phenomenal. The poise, the athleticism, the brains, just fantastic stuff. It has to be Dobbs. I will say, though, after that, it would be O'Connell. And again, I've been critical of O'Connell. I don't think he's the perfect head coach. Yesterday, I I, I didn't love the 54-yarder decision, 4th and 3. I kind of prefer like go for the kill shot, try and pick up that first down, right? I didn't love when it was like 4th and inches or whatever it was, like maybe not challenging that. You know what I mean? Or even trying your special teams on and are doing something like I know it's easy for me to say yada yada yada, but like there are moments there where um you kind of want and hope that kill shot, right? For the Vikings to kind of seize control of that game because it just felt like they were hanging on. We built this lead, now we're hanging on, man. You think like a hockey team builds up that lead and you're just content to like chip the puck out and send it down the ice, change your guys and try to, play some stifling defense through the neutral zone in your own zone. It's like, man, forget that. Let's get this puck deep. Let's maintain possession. Let's cycle this thing. Let's wheel and let's actually try and get another goal, right? Like, and so I can see how that kind of perspective at times is maybe not welcome from a lot of fans, right? But Kevin O'Connell, especially in second quarter, we talked about that man coverage, and we're doing a lot of crossing stuff now, kind of moving the pocket a bit with Dobbs because he's such a good athlete. He's so smart. He has done an exquisite job, Kevin O'Connell. He called an exquisite game as an offensive play caller, not without fault. Even at the very end there, where they kind of had to punt and there was a Hail Mary. I mean, the play call itself was beautiful. And it was if the turf monster doesn't reach up and grab Dobbs, it's a first down. That RPO. And so that was a great play call, right? And you kind of don't really fault O'Connell for that, certainly. So if it's not the QB, then it has to be the HC. It has to be the head coach. I would think. I mean, when you look at it, even though I will say, freaking Chris Darisaw, but man, when Darisaw and O'Neill are in there doing their thing, I don't think there are any two that are better. Even if you go over somewhere like Dallas or Philly or Cleveland, I don't think there's a pair that are better than those two. So the Vikings should be very encouraged about that. But I mean, when you look at, you kind of broke it down there, Sam. Would there be any kind of quibble or disagreement as opposed to where we're saying like QB, of course, and then the head coach? Or where are you looking at this, or how are you looking at this?
Yeah, like again, the question, it's like I kind of try to leave it in a way that was up for interpretation of what makes sense. And I think you see the quarterback, and he is going to be in some ways the obvious answer.
Yeah.
You mentioned Dobbs, 4th-round pick back in 2017.
Steelers, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so it's again, watching a mobile quarterback, like the amount of times that he extended drives yesterday with his legs, it was special. So to answer the question again, I think the Dobbs is and does feel like the maybe it is the most obvious answer. I will say though, if I'll like, all of them are doing stuff. Like it is a real team effort like that. Like the offensive line, I thought, played very, very well yesterday. And you look at this receiving core, right? You're without Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in the NFL. You're without Jordan Addison, or sorry, not Jordan Addison. You're without
KJ Osborne.
KJ Osborne. And so now you've got a rookie receiver, and you've got TJ Hawkinson. And you look at the amount of catches yesterday, like not a whole lot else of like there wasn't a whole lot of
it's true.
doing stuff yesterday. And these guys just continue to make it work. And you could see like Dobbs really had trust in those guys. Like he threw up some balls. Like Jordan Addison's not the type of receiver that I'm thinking is like a jump ball type of receiver.
Like Calvin Johnson. You know what I mean? The opposite.
But like Dobbs just was like, I'm gonna get it to this guy, and I'm gonna let him make plays on these balls. And again, Hawkinson, I think how he was used yesterday was like, oh, okay, like this is what we've been waiting for. This is why you pay the man the most amount of money for a tight end in the game. Like he has the ability to really do this. And so again, lots of good things happening right now. Lots of good, exciting things. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I throw one more thing into the mix there? One final thought. I know we're kind of getting towards the end here. Okay, so everyone can see that Dobbs is really friggin' smart. Really friggin' smart. He's the pastronaut, as NASA says. And then he's really, really athletic. The trait that's not getting really much airtime at all that should. He's really tough. And I know that sounds cliche, but dude's just like not a, like some dudes like things collapse down on him, it gets chaotic and they kind of wilt, right? That is not Josh Dobbs. And nor does he kind of prematurely leave the pocket and try to swing his legs. Like he'll hang in there, he'll take a shot, he'll keep doing his thing. When you combine those three attributes, like tremendous athleticism, brains, and toughness, you can do something. I'm not saying that he's the perfect quarterback. I'm not saying he's as good as Kirk Cousins, but he gives the offense a different element. And I admire how tough he is, as well as how smart and how athletic he is. And he's a lot of fun to watch and to kind of see. He's been here less than 2 weeks, Sam. Like it's just like if he went into this game and like didn't have really a full command of the offense, that'd have been perfectly excusable. But oh man, he's an impressive dude.
Yeah, what an underrated move at the trade deadline, right? Like I think when it happened, it was like, wow,
Swapping sixth and seventh,
good security.
Yeah,
and now it's like you said, people are talking.
people are believing. Shades of Case Keenum.
Yeah,
people are feeling this one.
Yeah, and again, you know what, you did say there that you're not putting him over Kirk Cousins, but again, we're a bit of an emotional podcast here, so just give it a couple weeks and
there you go.
And we'll be talking about and again, there's no this is just, it's the best of, again, you hate the circumstances as to why he's getting this opportunity, but it's fantastic to see him really step into this role, and it's fun. I'm again curious to see. We got Broncos this week right now slated for Sunday
which
football.
is Sean Payton.
You gotta like, and then you got the Bears before the bye, and you gotta,
that's a road game and a home game.
Yeah, you gotta hope
in Denver. Yeah,
you make this happen. To put
they could go in at 8-4, dude. 8-4.
So crazy.
They began 1-4, and now they're going to be favorites for these next two games to go to 8-4. And if you're at 8-4 going into your bye, and your bye arrives in week 13, I think you're saying that's a good football team, especially through all the injuries, right? So, man, I think Vikings fans are probably feeling pretty good right about now. They're probably quite happy.
I think so. So maybe we'll wrap up there. I'll ask this. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but should I hint at some new news, or do you want to make an announcement now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the cat's out of the bag. We're on YouTube, right? And really, Sam. I mean, Sam is he's the beauty in this podcast, right? He's that face, that's the moneymaker. And so kind of getting him on video, I think, was the real boon for us of just attracting a lot of attention, because Sam, of course, is this handsome chap. Yeah,
well, I don't know what to say now, but essentially, again, as we think about how to deliver this podcast, we thought that, you know what, adding a YouTube channel, we know that people and folks like that sometimes prefer it. And so if you want to go over and check out YouTube, where would people go, Kyle?
Yeah, if you want to see handsome Sam, sometimes referred to as Sizzling Sam, you go over to the Vikings Territory YouTube page, or YouTube channel, excuse me, I guess, and we'll be there. Notes from the North. It's the same podcast. All it is adding a video element to it, because as Sam was saying, some people like that. And you know what? Fair enough. If you're not really like a podcasty person, YouTube is still very accessible and familiar, and so maybe that's quite easy as well. So yeah, check it out. If you've listened, you're here, then I guess you already know what's up. But if you're, exactly, that's right. Just watch it again in the video, or if you're audio and you prefer YouTube, then hop on over and do it that way.
Yeah. We're just glad for however you decide to listen and or watch. So again, thanks everyone for listening. We will again be back next Monday. Check out coverage again. Kyle mentioned the Vikings Territory YouTube page, but vikingsterritory.com, purpleptsd.com. Again, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll be back next week. Bye.